Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching or listening to the podcast. They built it, and now they're terrified of how it's being used. Over 100 Google scientists just broke silence with a chilling warning. AI surveillance isn't coming. It's already here. As the Pentagon rolls out Gemini AI to 3 million military personnel via GenAI.mil, a massive rebellion is growing inside Silicon Valley. We're talking about autonomous weapons and domestic spying without human oversight. If you think the public deserves to know the truth about this $200 million takeover, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update on the AI war. But I want to hear from you. Is this national security or the end of our privacy? Drop a comment below. Nothing is off the table here. I'm reading every single one, so let's get the real debate started.
And to jump right into the geostrategic implications of this move, because they are immediate and they are severe, we are no longer in a theoretical phase of technology. The latest updates clearly show that global superpowers are essentially racing to integrate generative AI directly into their defense grids.
Because speed is survival now.
Exactly. It's short and precise. If one nation can process threat data in milliseconds while another takes minutes, that gap is fatal. That is the raw geopolitical reality driving this entire integration.
Right. And our mission for you today is to cut straight through that noise. We are going to explore exactly how this cutting-edge tech is actually being deployed by the Pentagon right now, and, precisely why the people building it are suddenly sounding the alarm.
Yeah.
We'll be relying on the latest news and recent reports, mostly breaking updates detailed by the New York Times, to give you the clearest picture possible.
It really is an absolute turning point. We're watching the strategic demands of a global superpower clash directly with the ethical boundaries of the civilian engineers, the people who actually hold the keys to the technology.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the specifics are they're staggering. The latest news details a breaking situation inside Google. We are talking about over 100 employees.
And not just random staff, right?
Right. These are scientists and engineers working directly on the artificial intelligence models.
Oh.
They recently sent a highly urgent letter to Jeff Dean. He's the chief scientist at Google DeepMind.
The core architecture team.
Exactly. And they're demanding strict, unbreakable limits. They want to guarantee that the Gemini AI system is not deployed for domestic mass surveillance of U.S. citizens, and they are drawing a hard line, demanding it not be used for autonomous weapons that lack human oversight.
To really grasp why this is happening now, we have to look at the pressure on both sides. From a defense standpoint, like we mentioned, the ultimate goal in any conflict is decision superiority.
Getting inside the enemy's decision cycle.
Precisely. You want to assess a threat and neutralize it faster than your opponent can even process what's happening. The military looks at generative AI and they just see the ultimate tool for speed.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of these Google scientists deploying this specific type of technology into a space where life and death are decided autonomously, it crosses an unforgivable line.
Because they know the flaws.
Exactly. These engineers know better than anyone that generative AI models are prone to hallucination. They know these models make unpredictable, totally opaque connections.
But, and let me play devil's advocate here for a moment. From the Pentagon's perspective, they're looking at a global landscape filled with near-peer adversaries.
Right.
Those adversaries are likely not having these internal ethical debates. If a rival nation integrates AI into their weapon systems, reducing the time it takes to identify a target and fire from minutes down to milliseconds, a military without that exact same capability is at a severe, potentially fatal disadvantage.
Right, the geostrategic angle again.
Yeah. So how do the engineers at Google or any of these tech companies reconcile the fact that if they don't build it, someone else will?
That is the exact tension driving this entire conflict. The Pentagon operates on a mandate of national survival. They cannot afford to let ethical hesitation slow down a technological arms race.
Because losing isn't an option.
Right. But the engineers are countering with a totally different kind of existential risk. They are arguing that the risk of an unintended escalation in a global conflict simply because an AI system confidently misidentified a threat or hallucinated a target is too high.
Wow. Yeah.
They're demanding a human remains in the loop because accountability cannot be outsourced to an algorithm. They're essentially saying that speed without oversight isn't an advantage, it's just reckless escalation.
And what's fascinating from the recent reports is that this isn't just an isolated incident at Google. This exact same standoff is playing out in parallel at Anthropic.
Which is wild.
It is. Because for you listening, you probably know Anthropic has positioned itself as heavily focused on AI safety. But according to the latest info, their models are already actively being used in classified military programs.
Yeah, the defense integration is moving fast.
The U.S. Department of Defense holds a massive $200 million contract with Anthropic. And they're aggressively pushing for broader, deeper access to those models. But Anthropic is digging its heels in. They want the exact same guarantees as the Google employees, an ironclad promise against domestic mass surveillance or fully autonomous weapons.
What's fascinating here is the legal lever the government might pull to resolve this standoff with Anthropic. The latest updates indicate that the Pentagon is actively considering invoking the Defense Production Act.
Wait, the DPA?
Yes.
I mean, we all understand the traditional use of the DPA commandeering factories to prioritize building physical assets like aircraft or securing supply chains for rare earth metals.
Right, or ventilators during a crisis.
Exactly. But applying this to artificial intelligence models, that represents a monumental, largely untested shift in national security strategy.
Right, because how do you even physically commandeer a neural network?
You don't. It isn't a factory floor producing steel. It's intellectual property. It's weights and biases living on massive server farms. If the government invokes the DPA here, are they legally compelling a private company to hand over proprietary code?
That is the unprecedented legal gray area we are entering right now.
Are they forcing Anthropic's engineers to prioritize defense computing over their commercial clients?
If the Pentagon invokes the Defense Production Act, they are essentially declaring that access to these specific, cutting-edge AI models is a matter of supreme national security. They are signaling that the United States cannot afford to let corporate autonomy or internal safety guidelines dictate the pace of military modernization.
Well, that's a huge precedent.
Huge. The invocation of that act would theoretically mandate that Anthropic prioritize the military's requests above all else. It effectively drafts the company's computational power into the state's defense apparatus.
Wow.
It is the ultimate assertion by the government that when the stakes are high enough, national security supersedes everything else.
But practically speaking, you can't exactly force a brilliant AI researcher to innovate at gunpoint, right?
No, they can't.
If the government forces the issue, you run the risk of alienating the exact minds you need to build the technology in the first place.
Precisely. And that's why it's such a delicate standoff. You can legally seize a server, sure, but you cannot legally mandate intellectual breakthroughs. The government needs the willing cooperation of these tech giants to maintain its edge. But it is clearly losing patience with the guardrails these companies are trying to enforce.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because while we are talking about what the military wants to do with companies like Anthropic and what Google employees are afraid they might do, we need to look very closely at what the military is already doing.
The reality on the ground.
Exactly. The latest news provides an incredible, unprecedented look into a program that rolled out back in December 2025. The U.S. Department of Defense launched a platform called GenAI.mil, and the sheer scale of this deployment is just difficult to wrap your head around. They are providing generative AI tools to nearly 3 million people.
It's staggering.
3 million military personnel, civilian staff, and defense contractors.
The operational impact of GenAI.mil cannot be overstated. When you deploy a centralized artificial intelligence system to 3 million personnel across the globe, you are fundamentally rewiring the entire nervous system of the world's most powerful military.
Yeah.
The recent reports specify that this platform integrates a version of Google's Gemini that has been specifically tailored and secured for government use. This isn't just some pilot program for a few generals in a room. This is mass adoption at the ground level.
And the latest news highlights these specific daily applications for GenAI.mil. At first glance, they might sound surprisingly mundane.
Paperwork, basically.
Right, we're talking about document drafting, policy summaries, risk analysis, media review. It almost sounds like they just gave everyone a really advanced intern to handle admin work. But in this context, that is a massive deal, isn't it?
It is a massive deal because in the realm of global military strategy, bureaucracy is speed and speed is power.
Oh, that makes sense.
The military is fundamentally a massive information processing machine. Before a decision can be made, raw data has to be turned into intelligence, intelligence into policy, and policy into action orders. That takes time.
Right. I'm thinking about the risk analysis aspect specifically. If you want to assess the geopolitical risk of, say, deploying a carrier strike group to a highly contested region,
Right.
in the past, That would require dozens of analysts poring over satellite intelligence, regional news, and historical data for days, maybe weeks, to draft a comprehensive brief.
Exactly. But with a government-tailored generative AI deployed across the network, that synthesis happens exponentially faster. An analyst can feed mountains of unstructured data into GenAI.mil and receive a comprehensive risk summary in seconds. Yes. When you give 3 million people the ability to instantly draft operational policy and review global media feeds across multiple theaters of operation, you create an unprecedented operational tempo. The U.S. military is attempting to cognitively outpace any rival nation's defense apparatus by removing the friction from its own bureaucracy.
But let's bring it back to the fears of those Google scientists.
Right.
If an intelligence analyst is using GenAI.mil to instantly summarize a massive stack of intercepted communications, trying to determine if an adversary is mobilizing troops, and the AI hallucinates a critical detail.
Worst-case scenario.
Right. So it confidently summarizes that a routine training exercise is actually a hostile mobilization. The consequences are catastrophic. The human analyst might trust the AI's summary because it looks official and it looks comprehensive.
And you have just perfectly articulated the nightmare scenario that led to that letter to Jeff Dean. The military is deploying these tools for risk analysis and media review because they desperately need the speed. But the engineers are terrified because they know the technology is designed to provide plausible-sounding answers.
Not necessarily factual ones.
Exactly, not necessarily factually grounded truth. When an AI hallucinates in a marketing email, it's embarrassing. When an AI hallucinates in a military intelligence summary regarding troop movements, it can trigger a real-world conflict.
And when you look at the latest updates, you see this GenAI.mil rollout isn't just some isolated website the Pentagon spun up on its own. The information shows a deeply woven web of partnerships locking Silicon Valley and the traditional defense industry together.
The plumbing is already there.
The ecosystem is built.
Yeah.
Look back to November 2025. The latest news details a major partnership where General Dynamics Information Technology teamed up directly with Google Public Sector. Their explicit goal was to provide AI-enabled cloud infrastructure for U.S. defense and intelligence agencies.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see a profound reality that completely supersedes the protests we discussed earlier. General Dynamics is one of the foundational pillars of the traditional defense industry.
Oh, absolutely.
By partnering with Google Public Sector to build out this AI-enabled cloud infrastructure, they are laying the necessary digital concrete to support things like GenAI.mil. You simply cannot deploy a tailored Gemini model to 3 million global users without an incredibly robust, highly classified cloud architecture to support it.
And it goes even further than cloud storage. In early 2025, Lockheed Martin announced it was integrating Google Cloud's Vertex AI right into its program called the AI Factory.
Right.
The latest reports note they're using this to accelerate the development of generative AI models specifically for national security, aerospace, and scientific applications. What does an AI factory even mean in the context of an aerospace and defense giant like Lockheed Martin?
It means the total fusion of physical warfare with cognitive software. Lockheed Martin builds the physical hardware, the fighter jets, the missile defense systems, the aerospace technology. Vertex AI is Google's enterprise machine learning platform. By integrating Vertex AI into an AI factory, Lockheed is essentially creating an assembly line for artificial intelligence models that can be directly embedded into their hardware.
So they're putting the AI inside the jets.
They're using generative AI to accelerate the design of new aerospace components, to run predictive maintenance on existing fleets of aircraft, and to optimize massive, complex national security supply chains.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the protests from the Google engineers regarding autonomous weapons are happening at the exact same time that Google's Vertex AI is being used by the world's largest defense contractor to modernize its aerospace and defense systems.
That is the inherent contradiction at the heart of this entire situation. The engineers at the ground level are demanding strict ethical boundaries and drawing red lines. But at the enterprise level, a deep systemic integration between Silicon Valley tech giants and the U.S. defense infrastructure is already thoroughly underway.
It's already done.
The United States government has clearly recognized that the next era of global dominance will not just be won by who has the most advanced physical fighter jets. It will be won by whose fighter jets, intelligence agencies, and logistical supply chains are powered by the most sophisticated artificial intelligence. The hardware and the software are becoming indistinguishable.
So what does this all mean? For you listening, we've covered a massive amount of ground today, and it is a lot to process. We are looking at an undeniable high-stakes tension shaping our world right now.
Absolutely.
On one side, we have an aggressive, sweeping, multi-billion-dollar modernization of the U.S. military. Tools like GenAI.mil are putting tailored Gemini models into the hands of 3 million personnel to accelerate the speed of war and bureaucracy. Vertex AI is powering Lockheed Martin's aerospace programs, and the Department of Defense is pushing a $200 million initiative to secure Anthropic's models.
A total overhaul.
But on the exact same token, the brilliant minds actually building this tech, the scientists at Google and Anthropic, are terrified of what they have unleashed. They are drawing a desperate line in the sand against a future of AI, mass surveillance, and autonomous weapons operating without a human conscience.
And they are risking their careers to do it.
And this is exactly why you need to care about this. This is not just an abstract story about military logistics, corporate cloud contracts, or internal company politics. This is about the fundamental guardrails being placed or forcefully removed from the technology that is actively reshaping our entire society.
The stakes couldn't be higher.
The decisions being made right now in classified Pentagon briefing rooms and closed-door Silicon Valley boardrooms will determine the rules of engagement for the future of humanity.
Which raises an important question, one that I want to leave you to think about long after we finish today. We discussed the Defense Production Act and the novel legal theory of how the U.S. government might use it to legally seize control of AI models against a company's will. If the government actually takes that drastic step to mandate defense prioritization, how will that impact the global talent pool? Will the world's top international AI researchers, the most brilliant minds from across the globe, simply refuse to work for American tech giants, knowing their brilliant code could legally be drafted into the Pentagon's arsenal at any moment?
That's a chilling thought.
And if the U.S. tech sector suffers a massive brain drain because of that heavy-handed approach, does the very act meant to secure our national defense actually end up destroying the country's technological advantage on the world stage?
That is the question we all need to be asking. Well, thank you everyone for watching or listening to the podcast today. We always appreciate you taking the time to navigate these complex, rapidly evolving waters with us. Be sure to listen to the other podcasts on our channel for more on these topics, and we will catch you on the next Deep Dive.
Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one.